So as the year draws to a close, it's always natural to think back on the year that was. And that being said, in the year of cinema, 2017, I looked back and came up with what I thought were one of my biggest recommendations of the year. This is my top 10 list for 2017, which means, yeah, no Transformers. And with that, I'm working to another episode of The Real Mentor. My goal, as always, is to enhance your movie watching experience. So it's always hard coming up with these top 10 lists of the year. There's so many good movies out there, and you struggle with which ones should be included and which shouldn't be included. For this particular list, I focus on the movies that resonated with me the most. Not only were these good films, and some of these may not even be the best films, but for me, they were the most entertaining, the most rewatchable, and offered something different that other movies may not have. Now, one little quick disclaimer, I didn't get a chance to see as many movies this year as I did last year, particularly with some of the Oscar flicks. Things like Call Me By Your Name, I didn't get a chance to see. I, Tonya was another one I didn't get a chance to see, for example. But I did get to see a good bunch of them. The Post is one that I missed recently, so obviously those will not be included in this list. I don't know how good those movies are or aren't. But as always, I'm going to start with some honorable mentions. Good movies like, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is one you definitely check out. Darkest Hour, which I think is going to win Gary Oldman the Oscar for Best Actor. Very good film. Obviously, we have two that I thought I almost had on the list at some point and took them off and put them back on I went back and forth with. And those were Wind River. That was a really underrated movie this year. Now that could have easily been this list, but it's one I really recommend you guys watch. It's from the writer of Sicario and Hell of High Water, which is one of my favorite movies of last year. And also War of the Planet of the Apes was another one that just missed the cut. A great ending to a great trilogy. This is one where, yeah, the marketing was a little misleading, unfortunately, but this is a really good, well-made film by Matt Reeves. Those are the ones I definitely recommend you guys watch more than anything else. And I'll add to that movies like Thor, as far as pure entertaining movies. Lady Bird, great coming-of-age story. A lot of people heard a lot about because it's such a high Rotten Tomato rating, and that's a good film. But none of those films, as good as they were, just cracked the top 10 as other 10 films I thought offered more and resonated with me just a little bit more. So let's get to it. So number 10, I got Baby Driver. It's a movie which took me by surprise. I really love this movie. I've seen it a couple of times already. Edgar Wright. It's probably one of his better films. It's such a great movie, a fun, comedic, exciting, great action to it as well. Great performances all around, of course, but there's a movie which is just kind of unique in terms of the feel of it. The music infused in the movie feels like almost a character on its own. And he does a great job of the choreography between the action and to the beats of the music that's on. Great soundtrack, a very fun movie. This one you can sit down and watch at any point and watch it numerous times and get something out of it every single time. So number 9, we got The Shape of Water. Of course, this is Guillermo del Toro's latest movie, one I saw a few weeks ago. This movie I didn't fall in love with it, but it is one of the most unique movies of the year, and for that, it's worth putting on this list, and it's worth you guys checking out. Sally Hawkins, fantastic as this mute woman who falls in love with this aquatic beast, and this is very dark fairy tale. Just a great original kind of take on this kind of story. It looks fantastic, and again, it's so unique. And it's one of those that I think, although I didn't fall in love with it, I think a lot of people will. It's one you guys should definitely check out. So number 8, I got Wonder Woman. This was kind of a surprise DC film. We don't get great DC movies very often. And I think Patty Jenkins directed this movie perfectly. Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. She was perfectly cast, did a great job in it. Although the ending of the movie is okay. Most of it is great. Has one of the best scenes of the year with the No Man's Land scene, if you guys haven't seen the movie yet. And it's very entertaining, and that's just a great movie, but it's also a very important movie because it was the first female superhero-led movie that we've ever seen, and this one nailing it out of the park. So it's going to pave the way not only for other female-led superhero movies, but other big budget female-led directed movies. So this is one I definitely recommend if you haven't seen it yet. At number 7, we got Coco. This was, again, this is Pixar doing what Pixar does best. When they're on top of the game, there's no studio that produces as great as movies, as consistent as they do. This was clearly, by far and away, the best animated movie of the year. A young story about a boy trying to find his roots. It's about family. And the ending, which is going to have a lot of people in tears. It's so well earned. Such a beautiful looking movie. Again, this is one if you're into animation, if you love Pixar, this one is a can't miss. At number 6, I have It. This was a horror movie which I thought transcended the genre itself. It's not just a good horror movie, it's a great movie, period, because not only, yes, the horror elements are great, It's scary. Skarsgård is great as portraying Pennywise, freaky as hell, so well done. But it goes beyond that. It's more a coming of age story, a lot of similarities to Stranger Things and Goonies, if you guys remember that way back in the day. This is kids that are such great characters, so relatable, and it really brings the movie together, making it more than just a good horror movie. And it's rare to get a good horror movie that transcends its genre, and this one knocks it out of the park. It made tons of money, and it deserves so, and I can't wait for the sequel to this. A must watch. Even if you're not a horror fan, I kind of recommend this movie for you as well. At number 5, of course, I'm a Star Wars fan. I gotta have Star Wars The Last Jedi in there. It is what it is. I didn't get a chance to review this movie. I know there's a lot of controversy amongst as far how people felt about this movie, particularly with the diehard Star Wars fans. All that notwithstanding, not a perfect movie, and there are some issues I had with it. Some of the story structure and some of the characters and what happened with them. But overall, the highs here were so high. It was some of the most memorable scenes in any Star Wars movie, and several of them in this movie. It's a great Star Wars movie. It took Rian Johnson took a lot of risks here. I think a lot of them paid off. Some didn't, but that's okay. And he gave us something different, but yet familiar to what we used to. And like I said, I thought this was a great Star Wars movie in itself. Probably my 4th favorite Star Wars movie of all time. Doesn't match up to an original trilogy, but what does, let's be honest. But it's great. It's one that, again, ignore the hate out there. There's a lot of controversy. This is a good, enjoyable movie with some really great highs. One of the best action sequences of the year. And overall, just a satisfying time. At 4, we have one that I never expected to be this high, particularly because it came out so early in the year. And that's Get Out. Jordan Peele is normally known for comedy, wrote this movie. It's just, and people say it's a horror movie. It's not a horror movie. If you want to call it a thriller, fair enough. It's got some horror elements to it. But this movie is just one of the more better, smartly written movies all year. So very socially relevant without being overbearing as far as, it's very subtle in terms of some of the messages that it's infused in the movie. And it feels more like a Black Mirror for those who are familiar with the Netflix show, or a Twilight Zone even. It's more along those lines than a horror movie itself. Very intriguing, a lot of twists and turns here. And there's one that you can probably watch several times and catch new things every time you watch it. So smart, so intelligent, huge surprise. I can't recommend this movie enough, so definitely check it out. At number 3 is a big surprise. That's The Big Sick. This is a movie that kind of came out of nowhere for me. A lot of people don't know about it or even talking about it. Very reminiscent of as far as what some of the things that Sing Street went through last year, and that's one of my favorites last year. A movie that flew just right under the radar, unfortunately. This one's gotten some more recognition, and deservedly so. This is such a great romantic comedy, but it's not romantic comedy that you think of. I was watching this movie in the first 30 minutes. I was like, okay, it's typical of a romantic comedy. Okay, I get it. It's still good, it's still funny, it's cute. But then it just takes a huge turn, and it completely changes the movie. And it's just nothing you expect out of a romantic comedy. And what's great about this is a true story about how this comedian who wrote the movie, who stars in the movie, I'm forgetting his name, met his wife, and it was so unconventional what happened, and the circumstances was led him to realize she was the one. And any movie that can make Ray Romano relevant and funny again, you got to put in the top 5 as far as I'm concerned. But it's a great, good, small, intimate story, very funny, great performances, great comedy. It's just a movie for everybody. I can't recommend this movie enough. It's probably one of the biggest surprises of the year. And number 2 is a movie which I initially had as my favorite movie upon watching it the first time. I kind of backtracked a little bit off it, but still, number 2, that's not bad, and that's Dunkirk, or Christopher Nolan giving us yet another great cinematic experience. This is what he does time and time again. And it's a movie about, obviously, the Dunkirk, a big battle happened in Dunkirk, tells it from 3 different perspectives, the land, the sea, and by air. And it was so well done. I like the intricacies of the story and how he decided to weave in the time elements to it to tell this story as it moved along. The only reason I didn't have once because, and I think it's a gripe that other people have had, but it wasn't that big with me, this wasn't a character-driven story per se. Not a lot of development. The story was the actual situation act of Dunkirk, and as a cinematic experience, it was fantastic. Seeing an IMAX, it's filmed in IMAX. The sound design is second to none. Hans Zimmer, great score. What else is new? But I'm not sure I was going to translate as far as watching it at home, but I think it's still be a great experience, a movie that anybody must see, particularly if you're a war fan, you're a history buff. Absolutely. If you like Christopher Nolan, you're going to like what you see here. And number 1, this is one I get on surprise that when I first saw it, I loved it. I thought it was my favorite movie at the time. This is back in March. And I'm shocked that here we are in December and it's still my most favorite movie of the year. I'm not saying it's the best movie. It's my favorite movie. It is one of the better movies, to make no mistake. But for me personally, a movie I can watch over and over again, and that's Logan. This is a movie which, I guess there's something different with the superhero genre, which we're so kind of accustomed to seeing the same thing from DC and Marvel. It gave us not only the rated R, which we saw in Deadpool, but a different kind of rated R. It's more mature, that was more comedic. But this is more of a independent feel, kind of Western style movie, but with a superhero, and of course in Wolverine, or aka Logan. This movie, it was just a great closing to the story. Hugh Jackman was phenomenal. Patrick Stewart, phenomenal. One of those guys has to get nominated. Maybe I'll lean more towards Patrick Stewart. I think he's got an easier chance. But it's a movie. It's so emotional, particularly it ends so well. It comes together great. X-23, little girl, phenomenal, fun, visceral, heartwarming, and has a great message in there as well. There is a woven theme about family and all that throughout, between Patrick Stewart to obviously Hugh Jackman's character in the X-23. I love this movie. It's so good. If you guys haven't seen it, and this is a movie where you don't even have to like superhero movies. Again, it's a different kind of superhero comic book movie, whatever you want to call it. There are some elements to it, of course. At the end of the day, it's still about the X-Men, still about Wolverine, but it gives you so much more. Such a great, intimate, independent story, and it feels so separate from anything else we've seen in the X-Men universe, which is such a great accomplishment. James Mangold, bravo to you. I hope they do bring the next X-23 movie out. We'll see. But in the meantime, we have Logan as one, guys. My favorite of the year. Phenomenal. You guys definitely need to check this out. If nothing else, give it a chance. So there we go. That's my top 10. If you haven't seen any of those, even my honorable mentions, make a point to see them if you're a film lover. There's some really good movies in there if you guys haven't got a chance to. And of course, anything else you want to add, comment below. What is your top 10? Is my list out of control? Maybe it is. I don't know. Either way, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. And of course, as always, if you haven't done so already, subscribe below and feel my need to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next year.